It's a pleasure for me to introduce Val for a number of reasons. One particularly is that we share the same birth date in different years, but the same birth date. Many of you know Val, so I will just say a couple of things just about her. You know that she was born and raised in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. She's a co-founder and the visionary leader of Visions, as Louise has said, and the Wright Center. She's a University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill alum as well as a Duke alum. I figured I had to get that in. And by training, she's a clinical psychologist. I thought that I would ask three other people who are close to her what they thought of Val or how they would describe her. So I asked her mother, her crib best friend, and her husband. Her mother said that Val can be described as dedicated, studious, and reliable. Her crib friend, Angela Bryant, said that she is, wow, a strong family person, a good mother, a good daughter, a good wife, and she's really talented. Her husband, John Capitman, and they've been together for over 25 years, says that Val is compassionate, brilliant, and creative. And the two children they have also say that. I'm sure if they were here, they'd say that too. I think that each of us gets to answer the question, why are we here on earth? What is our purpose in life? We each have an opportunity to feel our destiny. And I think Val decided early on what her destiny would be, and she has lived her life in such a way as to fulfill that. She has been a person who believes deeply that we can create inclusive environments, that social justice is a possibility, that equity for all is something that is achievable, and has spent 27 years through Vision and the community of people that she has brought together living that out. Val has lived her destiny. And when we live our destiny, we are giving a gift back to the Creator. So for 27 years, Val, you have been giving to the Rocky Mount community, to this country, to the world, the idea that we can heal, that we can have reconciliation, and that we each can be a part of that journey. I consider Val a revolutionary, a warrior, and a catalyst for social justice, for equity, and for inclusion. And I am deeply honored to be a part of the Visions community, the community of people that she brought together to share her vision of a different and better world for all of us. My friend, my colleague, Valerie Batts.
I'm going to start with how did I go to Duke and UNC? It's a positive consequence of being black, right? I didn't have those loyalties to deal with. I went where there were the best opportunities. So that's another place of being a bridge. Can you hear me? Good evening, Rocky Mount. Good evening. In preparing for this talk, I have revisited many old memories of growing up here in Rocky Mount, searching for the best way to communicate in a short period of time how growing up here helped form my career choice, to help people and systems recognize, understand, and appreciate differences. This is an essential part of finding common ground, even if it seems paradoxical. Hang in here with me on that thought. I remember being 6 years old in 1958 and being at the Belks downtown. I had learned to read, and my younger brother, Roscoe, some of you know him as Bruh, had not yet. We came in the store with our father, Roscoe Buck Batts Sr., and we asked to stop for a sip of water. I could read already, and I had already learned that our place was to drink at the fountain marked colored. Bruh just saw two water fountains. As I went to drink from the one marked colored, he just went up to the other one and was about to drink. I I noticed a white police officer nearby, and my heart started beating. So I whispered to my father, "Dad, he can't drink out of that fountain. He'll get in trouble. Look over there." And I pointed to the officer. My dad looked at bruh, and he looked at the officer, and then he paused, and he said to me, "Val, he can drink out of that fountain." Another small but important memory comes to mind. My friend since I was 10, Wright Center and Visions board member Patricia Davis Penn, and I used to go to the public library regularly after school when we were in middle and high school. Remember that, Patricia? I remember the white librarian for her act of justice. When Patricia and I had read all the novels in the colored section, she, without much fanfare, started giving us books from the white section. She recognized our love of reading and chose to act differently than the norm, thus supporting our human interest in learning more about the world around us, even at a time when to do so was not the law of our land. There are many such stories, and I know each of you have your own, as Doug has spoken about. Our work at Visions begins with the assumption that the legacy of those years here in Rocky Mount and across the United States is still an unfinished agenda that hangs like a noose on our neck. My hope in this next few minutes is to challenge each person in this room to recognize that whatever your personal situation and relationship is to this history, our work is not done. Our nation now way too often uses non-race related reasons for behaviors that continue to deny equal access to opportunity. Yet we must not be fooled. Angela Bryant, Ida Dew Hickerson, and John Capitman and I started Visions in 1984 along with several colleagues and friends. We had our first retreat in 1968 at Moton Conference Center. And I see KZ's wife here. KZ Chavis, whom many of you will remember, was our keynote speaker. Mrs. Chavis, are you here? Didn't I see her? Yes, yes. He at the time was a civil rights leader and was living in Atlanta, Georgia, and his life is like my life now. He was going around across the South organizing and doing civil rights work. I had grown up knowing KZ as my father's progressive friend, someone who traveled around working for justice for Black and other oppressed people. I will never forget his words of inspiration to me that day. Ordinary people can make a difference. You have assembled here an interracial group of young activists who can help change the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. We dared to believe we could do this. We were seeking common ground. Visions theory and practice grew from this group of committed individuals who shared a passion for liberty and justice for all. What started for me here in Rocky Mount, a keen awareness of difference born out of legalized segregation, in which differences meant Blacks were less and whites were better, continued to sharpen in my years as a student activist at UNC Chapel Hill and later as an academic at Duke. Though we were taught that assimilation was the cultural goal of the US in history and other classes, it made no sense given what we as Black folks were experiencing. Something I had caught here made it unacceptable to me, something I had caught here in Rocky Mount made it unacceptable for me that we as a country should live this lie. As I look back at our segregated schools, I feel great pride. All of you who are in this room tonight, who were teachers, administrators, staff members, and parents in that system, I hope you share that. Would you raise your hands, those of you who were part of that segregated system? We had something very special. I remember each child and their family being taken seriously and seen for who they were. That is the essence of the goal of our work at Visions, to seek to understand each of our unique humanity and how it contributes to the beautiful mosaic that is our humankind. But racism and other isms continue to block that. At Duke, I learned about a concept called modern racism. In brief, Old-fashioned racism that Doug and I talked about in our early stories is overt acceptance of blacks, Latinos, other people of color, and other groups, by the way, but again, a topic for another day, as less than, and of course, whites as better than. Legalized segregation was the expression of that we've spoken about above. I learned at Duke about modern racism, the subtle expression of this belief justified on non-racial grounds. It's not the blacks, it's the buses as an excuse to justify resistance to school desegregation. It's not that we don't want to hire blacks, it's just that we need qualified applicants. And even, it's not that President Obama isn't smart, but he doesn't have enough military experience. Now, I guess they're going to have to change that one, huh? But let's keep looking for what the next justification will be. That's what modern racism is.